DHL's e-commerce CEO Pablo Ciano. From massive infrastructure investments to the quick commerce boom and shifting global supply chains, Ciano tells us how India is becoming central to DHL's global strategy, even amid tariff turbulence. Here's an excerpt.
In India, through bluedart, we announced last year a 250 million euro investment for the next 3 to 5 years. That is mainly going to the ground infrastructure. That is upgrading our main hubs in the tier 1 cities, but also opening new facilities in the Northeast. In particular, for example, last week we opened a new hub in Kolkata. Tomorrow I'm going to be flying to Delhi, where we're going to be also opening a new hub for our ground operations there as well. So the majority of the growth, we see that the majority of the growth is going to be in the surface or ground services, both for large parcels, B2B, heavier weight, and also e-commerce. And that will be a combination of hubs in the main cities as well as vehicles to connect those hubs around the country. We see that infrastructure is more conducive to investing in ground services. And of course, today, connecting the major cities is much easier than it was 5 years ago. And we see that trend going and growing in the next few years. We're also, of course, on an ongoing basis, looking into our aviation capacity, how we can expand it and how we can accommodate it to the needs of the market. 2 or 3 other type of important elements. We are investing in life science and healthcare. That is a priority for the DHL group, but also for DHL eCommerce through bluedart. And we're also going to continue investing in digitalization, in particular AI. It wouldn't be a proper interview without talking about AI, and I'm sure that we can talk more about it and we can expand on that. But of course, AI is a big source of where we see that our business can benefit from efficiency and also customer experience. To your second question, in terms of how does this play into the bigger picture of DHL eCommerce? India, for DHL eCommerce, globally is one of the top 2 countries where we are investing. It's extremely important. We are very confident that the country macroeconomically, again, despite of potentially some short-term challenges, has all the ingredients to continue growing and being a big source of growth for the DHL group and for DHL eCommerce in particular.
And how does India allow DHL at a global level, including e-commerce, to try and fulfill the global level aspirations that DHL has? Give us, if you can, the numbers and the significance behind that. Say for the next 3 years, what the growth path of the global entity versus the Indian entity will be, to try and help us gauge as to how India is as relevant as you call it out to be.
I give you two inputs there. One is that we believe that the overall global trade and logistics business globally, on average, will be growing between 2 to 4, 5% global in average, where we see India potentially growing at twice that rate or probably more. So in this reshaping and in this reconfiguration of global trade, we see that there are some countries that are going to be more impacted than others. And we see that they are going to be growing on average less than countries like India. And we see India one of the top 10 countries that are going to benefit from the reshaping and reconfiguration of supply chains. Even though, of course, of the short-term challenges with trade partners, like, for example, the US, we see India having the ability to continue becoming a great exporter into Europe, into Southeast Asia. And we believe that India is in the starting point of that journey. For example, India today is not a big exporter of finished goods from an e-commerce perspective, similar to what we have seen in China. India is in the early stages of that journey. And that's why we believe that for DHL Group, India is strategically important, because we see, first of all, from an e-commerce perspective, massive potential for India beginning and continue to accelerate the export of finished goods for e-commerce, so that consumers in Europe, in Southeast Asia, or Latin America can consume products that are being shipped directly into consumers from India. And second, for example, is life science and healthcare. We see that India will continue being a production source for those type of value-added goods as it is today, and that will be another big source of growth for India.
You know, Pablo, one thing that has really changed, there's been a big shift in India, and that is the advent of quick commerce. And this is very unique to a large extent to India. This, of course, to some extent increases competition within the logistics space because this is core logistics, right? And there's a huge flood of funding coming into the space. How are you dealing with it? How is your business pivoting to that? And what are the challenges that you are seeing? Give us that sense as to, from your lens, what are you seeing in this particular space?
Well, let me give a great example. A few weeks ago, I was talking to the CEO of Snitch, which is one of the fastest growing fashion companies in India. We had a great conversation with him, and he was explaining to me their view on quick commerce, which is basically having the ability to fulfill from a store for a consumer who wants to have something really fast. But that is only one piece of the omni-channel journey. Companies like Snitch and many other ones are going to, of course, include quick commerce capabilities within their offering, but they're not going to do that at the expense of the more traditional either store, fulfill or deliver, or picked up into store or deliver to a home. And that's why logistics is a very broad spectrum where we see omni-channel as potentially the way forward. And one piece of the puzzle of that omni-channel is going to be quick commerce. And we will continue, of course, satisfying the need of our customers through the traditional fulfillment, either because of warehousing management or deliver from warehouse to store or from warehouse to final consumers, or also from stores into consumers. So I would say that definitely is here to stay. It's going to be one piece of the puzzle. We have seen that journey before in many other countries where at the very short term, they have expanded rapidly, but then when the dust settles, only few ones survive. And that's why the core capabilities that we have in bluedart, we believe are perfect to satisfying the full spectrum of our customer needs.
Given tariffs, how is the global supply chain changing, given everything that's happening around tariffs?
Understood. Yeah, of course, there is no doubt that the last 12 months have been very dynamic. And of course, tariffs have added a level of complexity on how we do business. It is a little bit of a continuation of a trend that started 2 years ago by the reshaping of what was called and understood as China plus one. Today, it's not only China plus one, it's China plus 1, 2, 3, 4, and 10. And we believe that in this reconfiguration of supply chains, there will be some winners and some losers. Usually, we like to say that water finds its own way, and water in the sense of global trade is finding its own way. And before, a lot of the sourcing was happening in mainly China and some few other countries. Today is being diversified in Vietnam, Turkey, India, Brazil, and Mexico. And that's why we like to see this as a diversification of supply chains, not at all a reduction of global trade. So regardless of some adjustments in the short term, we believe that, again, flows and trade flows are going to find the best way to continue satisfying the customer needs. These are needs that are not easy to replace overnight. And we have consumers around the world that are willing to continue buying goods from abroad. And the only thing that is going to change is how those flows are going to be materializing. We in DHL Group have the advantage of having presence in 220 countries around the world. And therefore, we can rapidly help our customers adjust their supply chains to satisfy those needs. And that's what's going on today. Yes, we see some, of course, lanes that are declining significantly, but we see others that are growing massively. So, for example, we see a country like Vietnam or even India growing at 10, 20, 30% in terms of respective trade lanes, while some others are, of course, are declining. So in sum, I would say that global trade is a big trend that we believe, because of consumer needs, is going to continue evolving, and we're going to continue be seeing a reshaping of supply chains.